So you want to hang a Finnish axe. Here's a Bill Ness 12-3 that I'm working on. This head, I've cleaned up the shroomage on the pole here, and I've cleaned up and made sure there's no sharp edge on the inside edge of this eye here. Flared the little ears out a little bit, so that way they don't dig into the wood when you seat it. The top of this eye was smashed in pretty good with a hammer. Somebody was beating the head back on, so I had to come in here with a rotary burr and remove a lot of shroomage on the inside edge of the eye. Make sure that this is kind of chamfered around here real good. And she's pretty much ready to hang. The interesting thing about these is that it's not a straight taper. It has a bit of a gooseneck here. These are a pain to fit. That's why generally you see that they fitted a chunk of birch to the eye. And from what I've seen, they actually hung them. And then they would carve the handle out with it already hung on the head. Wedged and everything. Working in reverse is a bit more difficult. You have to make sure that you keep the handle centered as you work it down onto the shoulder here. I generally bring my heads about 3/8 of an inch shy of where I actually want them to be. You can see that I have firm contact along this facet here on the inside of the head. I'm contacting here on the edges of the collar. And we have contact back here. These shiny parts, you'll see. It's shiny here. That's where the wood's compressed as it's been fitted to the eye. No joke, guys, that these heads actually get taken on and off the handle probably 50 times fitting one of these heads. You want to make sure that you have a nice fit. You don't want to have hollow spots inside. Once you've wedged it, driven it into the eye and then you wedge it, if you took too much material off of here and it's not touching steel, then that means you're going to put more strain on this area, and then this is going to compress and it's going to get loose and you're going to have a loose, wobbly head. So you have to fit these very, very carefully. You want to make sure you have full contact. If you're trying this for the first time, then I would say you go as slow as possible and maybe consider using some sort of filler between the metal and the wood. Epoxy, I've seen people use. That's definitely a good idea. I don't like the idea of using epoxy. I think that's a Band-Aid. To me, I want full contact. And the reason why I stop about 3/8 short of the depth I want the head to seat onto the handle is because I will boil this handle in oil or pine tar, and then I will drive it on. It'll be lubricated and softened a bit by being cooked in pine tar, and it will drive on deeper than you would if you had it just dry wood. You've seen the method if you're into these axes. I'm sure you've seen it done with water. The problem is that the birch swells with water and then it shrinks when it dries fully. I've had heads come loose after boiling the end of the head in water. So I don't like using that method anymore. I just recently attempted boiling an ash handle in straight boiled linseed oil and just cooked it in that a little bit and drove it on. And that worked quite well. But this is what you have to look forward to. If you don't have nice straight grain running through the eye part of the handle and you're going to try the snakehead wedge, you better pre-drill a hole, in my opinion. The snakehead wedge, if you just put the cuts in the end of the eye here like you've seen done in the old time videos and you try and drive that wedge in there, it will follow the grain for the most part. So if you do not have perfectly straight grain to where it's going to follow down the center of the handle like you want it to, I would suggest pre-drilling a hole. Even if I had straight grain, I probably would pre-drill a hole anyway. I want to guide that wedge where I want it to go, just like sawing a slot for the kerf if you're using a traditional style wedge on a Western style axe. You want it to follow, you guide it where you want it to go. The grain on this is pretty straight, but I would still drill a hole. I'm beginning to think that the snakehead wedge is maybe more trouble than it's worth. The last axe that I wedged was a 1123, which is a modernized style Billness axe. And I used one of Declan Darcy's bog oak wedges from Ireland and just split it down, and I wedged that axe in a traditional Western style way, and it worked fantastic. I think that maybe the quote unquote feather wedge that the Finns use may be the best way to go about wedging one of these axes. So just want to show you guys what to look forward to if you decide to hang one of these yourself. There's a lot of angles going on here that you have to contend with, and it takes a lot of fitting, a lot of patience, a lot of time. It's not easy. I've done quite a few of these so far, and it's still not easy for me. Every single one of them takes time. Every single one of them presents its own form of challenges, and they're just difficult in general. But they are absolutely beautiful axes. They are completely unique. There's nothing else out there like them, and they're worth all the trouble, in my opinion, or else I wouldn't be doing this. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think.